betrayal, heartbreak, and karma. Let's explore the wildest true cheating stories from Reddit. Story 1. I found some fucked up shit. I've been dating my boyfriend for about 4 years now and we've had 3 kids together. Cheated on me multiple times, even during my pregnancy twice. The first time I saw he recorded it, and that's how I found out. I don't know why the fuck I stayed. I know, I am dumb ASF. Second, he was texting another bitch online, and yeah, they sounded like they were a couple saying, "I love you. I've never felt this way before" type shit, while I was in my second trimester and went ongoing until I was done and still kinda is. The other times I wasn't pregnant, but I didn't really care about it. I just didn't want to be/feel alone or do parenting alone. Anyways, the last straw was when I went on his phone and checked his deleted pics/vids, and he was fleeking touching himself while recording his mom like, WTF. Not bio mom, but raised him almost his whole life. That's probably the FKD up thing I ever saw on his phone. Like, what a fucking piece of shit. Story 2. Am I being cheated on? This is my first time posting to read it and just need a little advice. I'm F20 and my fiance is M27. This all started back about 3, maybe 4 months ago. I was looking through his phone to send me pictures of a new baby for our baby book. I ended up stumbling upon some noobs of a girl and knew he was talking to, but never knew to this point, along with a few others. Jump forward a little bit, and I asked him about it. He says he never asked for the nudes, then said they wear form when she first added him and the others wear bots. Fast forward 2 days ago, being paranoid, I checked his phone and saw that he was asking to meet up with a few female on Snapchat and he says it's bots. Fast forward to today, still paranoid. I looked through his phone and there's a different female. The conversation went, her. Hey, meet you off Tinder. Him. Okay, cool. So I looked further. His last app looked up on his Play Store, and Tinder was the last thing in his search bar history. When I asked him about it, he brushed it off, saying was probably an old Tinder account, and the only reason he had it in his search bar was because he wanted to see the app. Story 3. Slept with someone I wasn't supposed to. My wife, asexual, allowed me to sleep with someone besides her, with some ground rules, including not with anyone she knows. Long story short, I broke that rule. I talked to a friend about it, and we ended up sleeping together. I fucked everything up. However, I'd be lying if I said I was all regretful. The sex was amazing, but I know what's more important is my marriage. Is there any way at all this can be salvaged? Story 4. Does cheating mean the cheater doesn't love you? I was just reading some cheating stories here in this sub, and someone said that if the person cheated on you, they don't love you anymore. Very curious. I am very curious to hear from all of you. What do you think? Can you love and still cheat on the person you love? Isn't that what self-sabotage is? And for those who have cheated/been cheated on but worked it out, how did that work? Were you ever able to regain trust? I had a college boyfriend for 3 years that I was madly in love with. He cheated on me and it was never the same again. It ended our relationship, although not immediately. I definitely think he loved me and knew he made a huge mistake. I just couldn't get over it. So, back to the original question. Does cheating mean the cheater doesn't love you? Story 5. I still think about the one that got away, and I still have a girlfriend. For context, my first girlfriend was in my sophomore year of high school, 21 to 22, and we were together for a little over a year. We split up pretty much due to both of us being too young, and I was too prideful to be understanding enough. I tried to convince myself to hate her, but I ultimately just couldn't. I cheated on my second girlfriend with her later in the hell that was that relationship, and I made a promise to her that I would stay with her even though I was moving to a different state. I am really shitty when it comes to long-distance relationships, and I ended up just ghosting her, which today I realize was a fucking horrible thing for me to do, and even today I regret doing that. Probably a couple months later, I got with my current GF, and everything was going fine. But about once a month for a full week, I get a wave of a really shitty mindset, where all I want is her, and I want to talk to her. I'll have dreams plagued with her about getting back with her, or her being with me, and when I wake up I desperately try to go back to sleep to see her again. I try my best to distract myself, either through my current GF or alcohol, but it's always temporary. I fully understand I did this to myself, and I hate myself for it, but that hasn't stopped me from trying again and again to get back with her, even though I have a GF who knows nothing about these attempts. There were times where me and her were talking again, probably back in March to April of 2024. We talked on the phone and played Fortnite together, and I was just happy to be talking to her again, even though she was in a relationship, but she wasn't happy because he was abusive. And ultimately, I wasn't happy either because my GF just isn't mature enough to understand me in any way. But my ex just gets me on a level that no one else have ever been able to see me, not even my parents. And I think that's what keeps sucking me in. He wrote me a poem. I fucking love poems. I used to write them for her all the time, back when we were together. and I didn't actually get a chance to read it until we were talking back in March of 24. The poem really hit me hard because it solidified just how much she had a lock on who I was as a person that no one else had ever been able to lock down so perfectly before. I still have that poem saved in my phone, and even thinking about it hits me hard in the soul. She went radio silent for a while after she broke up with her BF at the time, and I was perfectly content with her taking all the time she needed to figure out what she wanted from life. Then back in November, I got back in contact with her and basically spilled my heart out because I was having one of those weeks where all I thought about was her. I went to see an elderly person I'm really close with to ask for advice, and she basically said that I have to forget my first love or it'll damage everything around me. In my head, I said to hell with that. I am willing to burn the world and everything around to be with her. I was then, and I am now. So I got in contact with her and spilled my heart out, probably a bit too much. But I didn't care. I had stuff to say. I couldn't really tell how she was receiving it, but it gave me hope when she said she was willing to start slow with me and see where it went. I was overjoyed at the possibility and hope that I could be with her again. Around the time of Thanksgiving, I was going to see my dad for the holidays, back where I went to high school and where she still lives. I planned with her to meet me back at our usual hangout spot at the park, and we planned a time for the day I was going to get into town. Fast forward to that day, I turn a 4-hour drive into a 3-hour drive, and I arrive an hour early. I sit there waiting for 2 hours before I get a text from her saying that she's in love in someone else, and if she truly loved him, she wouldn't be meeting me. I can't describe the pain my soul felt, but to this day, none of that turned to hate towards her, only myself. Not a single part of me has any malice towards her, so I just told her to be happy and live free like she deserves. Fast forward again to today. It's that week of the month where all I can think about is her, and my soul feels hollow. I had 2 different dreams last night, one where we were trying to be friends and I would keep periodically waking up and going back to sleep in the same dream. I didn't want to go back to sleep because of the pain I felt from it. Then the dream changed and we were trying to get back together. Then when I woke up, I wanted nothing more than to go back to the false reality. I'm a hopeless romantic but a complete asshole for still staying in this relationship with her, not knowing at all what's going on in my head, because if my childhood taught me nothing, it was how to act. I fully understand how much of a complete asshole I am, but to be honest, after my grandparents passed, my sympathy for the world is gone. I've become a completely different person, and I hid behind weed to try and hide the pain, but it was only ever temporary, and I stayed high constantly to avoid the pain. I made a lot of bad decisions from that, and told a lot of lies. My first love is the only one who holds a place in my heart for sympathy, and she truly taught me so much that I am forever grateful to her for helping me become who I am today. I'm pretty sure she blocked me on Facebook, which was how I got in contact with her back in November, and that tells me she's trying to move on, but for some fucking reason my mind won't let me. It's so chained to her that I can't get her out of my head. I'm still with my GF, and she doesn't know, but I use her to try and forget. In a fucked up way, it's a means to an end. And I know I'm an asshole, but it's just something I was prepared to bring to the grave. But I'm hoping by making this confession that I can try and lessen the weight on my soul. There's so much more I can say, but that's the gist of most of it. I feel like I probably need therapy, but I kind of find that judgment by peers is the best form of that. I heard that psychopaths/sociopaths have that one person they hold dear with a complete disregard to the rest of the world, and if I'm a part of that spectrum, then she's that person, and my mind won't leave it alone. I genuinely don't know what to do about it. I keep wanting to talk to her, but if she's moving on, that means she's trying to leave me in that back burner. The only time she's ever blocked me before was to get rid of the temptation to contact me in the first place. At least that's what I hope it is now. In some fucked up way, I hope she still thinks of me too, and she's stronger than I am to block me and get rid of that temptation. But just in case she ever wants to try, I'll always be here. In the case she reads this, although I doubt she has read it, she'll know who I am. Just know even now I still love you, and I'll bend the earth or burn it to be with you again. To everyone else, thank you for reading. I just really needed to get this off my chest. It's been weighing on me for a long while. Now I'm gonna drive home blaring Snuff by Slipknot and get drunk to try and forget I did this in the first place, even though I'll be checking in probably tomorrow to see what you guys have to say. Scissor. Story 6. If someone dumps you out of rage but then doesn't really mean it or changes their mind shortly after, and you flirted with another person after you were dumped, is that considered cheating? My boyfriend was abusing me verbally and emotionally, screaming, yelling, name-calling, acting aggressively, for many hours. He's done this a ton of times, and it's set off by really small things, like leaving a dish out on the table. After, he dumped me, told me to leave, and said we're over. I was about to leave, but then he held me hostage by taking a knife out to his throat and threatening to kill himself in front of me. After calming him down, I told him I'd call the cops if he didn't put the weapon down, I finally left. In a severe state of trauma-induced dissociation, I called someone who I thought was a friend. That friend took advantage of my vulnerable mental and psychological state, and after telling him what had just happened, he came on to me in a sexual way. I resisted at first, but then engaged with him for a short period of time. My brain was not functioning due to the trauma of the entire day. I was severely dissociated. I realized this friend took advantage of me shortly after and blocked him permanently. After, my boyfriend decided that he wanted to get back together. He told me that he had just dumped me out of rage and didn't really mean it, so therefore it didn't actually count. Completely unbeknownst to me, since he had clearly stated that we're over. He begged me to come back to him and insinuated that he didn't think he would be able to live without me, alluding again to suicide. In a severely dissociated state and feeling extremely alone and isolated while missing him very badly, due to a trauma bond, I agreed to come back to him. I did not tell him about what happened because due to his aggressive, unstable, impulsive, and extremely volatile behavior, I was afraid he would harm himself, me, or both of us if I told him. So, does that constitute cheating? Story 7. My cheater BF doesn't want to open our relationship. I told him several times, if one of us cheats, we are no longer a monogamous relationship. At that point, we are an open relationship. And he laughed and said that wouldn't happen because no one will cheat. But he cheated on me, which was kind of fine. I know his cheating is not about me, but about him. I was a bit sad at first, but I quickly became okay. I told him now we are an open relationship because apparently you can't be a monogamous material, which is fine for me. He refuses it, but instead suggesting couple counseling. So I said, you go fix your things first, in individual therapy at least, because I didn't cheat. Then maybe we talk about couple counseling later. Well, I am pretty cynical what couple counseling could help, since being monogamous and not cheating in monogamy relationship are about their personal trait and moral code. Maybe he could learn better way to express his need or soothe my feelings. However, I have my therapist, so I could work it out about my feeling with my therapist. He consistently said he doesn't want open relationship. He wants to settle down, he wants our future, he wants committed relationships, LOL. But it sounds like BS, so I said him, well, our relationship is pretty unfair, that you could hold another and I can't, and since our needs are different, we need to break up. He said no, he doesn't want it, LMAO. Probably he couldn't take me laugh with other person, being spoiled by other man, being pleased by other. Some people think naively it's only joking, until they find out it hasn't been. Story 8. I, 34F, found out my husband, 32M, cheated and lied about it for 7 years. How do I cope? My husband, 32M, and I, 34F, married in 2014. I always felt a strong and stable connection with him. I felt as if he was my other half, my soulmate, and my best friend. I always had complete trust in him and never would have thought he would ever do anything to hurt me. Throughout the years he asked a few things of me, such as losing weight for my health and working on myself as far as how I think. I did lose over 120 pounds and started being a more positive person and thought he was helping me become a better person or version of myself. In 2019, he started asking for a threesome and used the analogy of, I'm a minivan, and sometimes he wants to test drive something else. Something different, like a sports car. He pressured me to sleep with my best friend. He found her sexy and swore it would be a one-and-done thing. After many months, I finally gave in and said yes. I did have conditions. One is that it would not be in our home, since we do have several children. The second is that he would use protection. I told him I completely didn't feel comfortable with it, but it was going to get him to stop, then fine. Came the day of, everything went out the window. He didn't use protection, he brought her to our home in our bed with our children sleeping in their rooms down the hall. To make it worse, I stood there and watched the whole thing go down and was just on the sideline. It's like I wasn't even there. He told me I was making it awkward and left the room clearly upset. He and my friend went on to finish. Fast forward to a few weeks later, she thinks she is pregnant. I talked to her and told him, and he wasn't really fazed by it. I was really hurt because he wanted no more kids with me even though I wanted one more. A few weeks after that, she tells me she went to the docs and it was a false pregnancy. Even though I was traumatized and scarred, I chose to work through it because I love him. I did start to look through his phone and realized he would look at a lot of videos of girls, streamers, porn, etc. It made me feel very insecure, and he still expressed that he had an urge to want to be with other women sexually, but if he ever had the urge to cheat, he would call me beforehand to let me know. Past few months, he has been going to get massages for his back. I was a bit suspicious because of how often he was going, but when I check his location, it would show he was at the massage place. Then just last week, he hit me with a confession that he was going and getting happy endings at the massage place, even though we were hurting on money. I wanted to buy a certain gift for our son for Xmas, and he told me no, but he had money to get all those massages. I still felt like there was more, but he swore up and down. I pressured him, and finally the whole truth came out. The first time he ever cheated on me was when we were 3 years married, and I was pregnant at the time. He paid a stripper and let him do it with her. He was at work at the time and went and did it with her. I am completely dumbfounded right now. We have been married for almost 11 years, and everything seems like one big lie. I don't even know what to do. I am in complete shock. He wants to work it out, but I truly wonder if he is just with me because of the kids. I've done everything he has ever asked of me. I've tried my best to make him happy, and it feels like it's not enough. He admits that he has a problem. He said he thinks he wanted to have his cake and eat it too, Baker said. He said he loves me, but in my eyes you don't do this to someone you love. I don't even know where to begin or how to heal from something like this. I feel like my whole world has shattered. I feel like a piece of me has died. The husband I love is not the person I thought he was. I feel like I don't know who I'm married to. King. I have been completely committed to him. And to be honest, I don't even look or check out other guys. I don't stray even in the slightest. I have eyes for him and only him. The betrayal is so unreal right now. How do married couples move past something like this? I feel lost. A little help or advice would be appreciated. We are going to start marriage counseling. Story 9. Would I be wrong if I left my husband for my ex-best friend? So a little background, my husband, 28, and I, 25, met on a dating app in 2016. We dated for 2 months, broke up, then got back together 4 months later. My husband deleted every mail on my socials. Since then, I have caught him cheating on dating sites and texting his exes with sexual convos. I've caught him again, so I finally said enough was enough and downloaded a dating app, which reconnected me and my friend. My friend, has been trying to get me to leave my husband since the beginning of the relationship. I had feelings for said friend before I got with my husband, and he turned me down BC of his own problems. Since reconnecting, he has been flirty, and we message all day. Idk, what to do, please help. Story 10. Boyfriend of 8 years cheated and still denied. So I, F21, and my boyfriend, M23, haven't been together for more than 7 years. He was my first, and I was his first relationship. I have always loved and trusted him 100%, and he has also been always so loving and never gave me a reason to doubt. Although 2024 was really tough on us. He had some serious family issues due to which I ghosted me completely. When things got better, he communicated, and we were like before then. Again in September, he ghosted me for the entire month even though it was my B-Day month. He didn't even wish me a happy birthday, even when I kept texting and reaching back to him. We are from a Desi family, so his parents do not entirely approve of love marriage, so they started seeing prospects for him. And even he met with that girl, even when a day before, I asked and requested him not to. And he promised he will not go and see her, but he did. He has tell me. I guessed that he has gone to meet her, and he confessed. Little backstory. I have been asking him to talk about us to his parents, but he just keeps on asking time, and I have tried to break up 100 times, but he hasn't let me go as well. Fast forward to today, we were together, and I opened his Snapchat and saw there was one girl added. I opened the chat and he has texted her, "Good morning, love heartsuit. Sorry I slept early last night." After seeing that text, I lost my shit. He took his phone and got out of the car and returned minutes later, and I am sure he has deleted everything. I did yell, cried, etc. But he kept on saying that text was by mistake, and there is nothing between me and her. She is nothing. Basically, he didn't tell me anything further. He just said, there are no more chats. I just removed her, so you won't feel bad. And she means nothing to me, etc. I ended things with him, but he kept saying sorry. And to forget this, he hasn't done anything more. But I obviously don't trust him. How do I move on? Should I give him another chance? Will this ever stop hurting? I need advice, please. And if you can draw from your personal experience, that'd be even better. 11. I, 18M, have gotten cheated and lied to by my GF, 18F, and am just completely lost and don't have the slightest idea on what to do. My name is G, and my EXS name is J. We were in a perfectly happy relationship, some fights here and there, but for the most part we always enjoyed each other's company. About 1 year and 2 months into the relationship, she cheated on me with a guy by laying in bed with him, and that's all she told me. I believed her and decided to let it slide. After about 5 months, I found out there were countless details of that day that she left out. For example, they started talking to each other a month before. continued talking to each other after I gave her another chance, and God knows what else happens that I just don't know about. For some reason, I let that slide as well. Even though I initially told her we are breaking up, I ended up going back to her in a day. Roughly a month after that, she confessed to me that while hanging out with a friend group of hers, a guy got dared to kiss her on the neck, and she let him. I let this slide as well, even though I was extremely upset. About a week after that, I discovered that a week before the neck kiss they had made out, and a few days after the dare had kissed. This was the last straw, and I finally made a move on ending this. But the reason I'm here is, why do I feel so much love for her, despite what she did to me? Why does my life feel so pointless and meaningless? Without her, it's like my whole reason for living and spark were gone in an instant. I've lost my ability to smile, to have fun, and to be productive even though she did all these terrible things to me. The year and a half we spent together has been the highlight of my life. Looking back, the memories I have of her, remembering us smiling together, all the fun dates we planned, going through high school together, talking about how many kids and dogs we wanted, I miss all of it. I want it back more than anything. I want her more than anything. Everyone has been telling me I'll get over it, but I don't see how. This girl is my first everything. I trusted her more than I trust my own family, loved her more, cared for her more than myself. I just want my sweet girl back. I want her to lean on her when I need help. I don't want anyone else. I just want her. Sorry I got off track, but I'll continue. I've been texting her dad a ton. Since we have gotten pretty close, he apologized for everything she has done to me and says he's going through the same thing with his ex-wife, and that's where Jay got all these habits from. He told me not to text her because she needs to fix herself, and that maybe in the future she will be ready for me. Is this realistic to think I have a chance with her? A real chance to make myself happy with her? The last thing I want is false hope, but if I have a chance at having her, I would give everything for it. Her dad told me that she has been crying over me and saying I'm all she wants and she doesn't want anybody else. I just understand why she cheated so much, if that was the case. We were planning on moving in together in just 4 months, but she couldn't hold off from cheating. I really don't get it. I hate to ask this, but I need someone to talk to. I don't care how old you are, what gender you are, or your opinions on this matter, but if you think you can help me through this tremendous change, I would be forever grateful. I need guidance. I can't do it myself. I'm blinded by love. I'll never make the right choices if I do them by myself. And Julia, at the slight chance that you somehow see this message, either on Reddit or on TikTok, understand, I love you more than I have ever loved anything else in my entire life, but you hurt me. All I ever wanted was to be happy with you, but that reality is fading from me. I don't want it to fade. I want to have you with me forever. I want to go on our small dates again. I want to look into your eyes and get lost in them and forget all my problems. I want to get motivated to provide you with the life you want. I want to have a family with you. I want to be loved by you. I'll never understand why you couldn't understand the things I wanted, and I'll never understand why you chose temporary pleasure instead of a whole lifetime with me. I don't understand it. I never will, but nonetheless, I will continue loving you until I leave this life. Story 12. The relationship that ruined me. My third relationship. It was the end of my second semester of nursing school. I was 22 years old, full of hope, and waiting for the day I'd meet someone I could truly see a future with. For me, dating wasn't casual. It was with the intention of marriage. I'd promised myself that the next relationship I allowed into my life would be my last. My past relationships had been few but meaningful. There was my high school love, a sweet but short-lived romance that fizzled when we went off to college. Then there was a guy the first dated for a couple of months, before realizing we were simply too different. And, like many girls in their 20s, I had a toxic situationship that left more of a mark on me than it should have. But then, I met someone new. My third relationship. I'd known of him for a while. I'd even been to a party at his house once, and exchanged a brief conversation, but I didn't know anything about him. Here, he added me on social media, occasionally liking my posts, though I never thought much of it, until he started messaging me. Within the first week, he asked me on a date. I said yes. We went to a local steakhouse. Neither of us was particularly hungry, so we settled on a couple of drinks and an appetizer before he had to leave for a work trip. I liked him, really liked him. Conversation came effortlessly. When I stepped out of my car, the first thing he said was, "Wow, you look beautiful." His words made me feel giddy, a feeling I hadn't experienced in years. The following week, while he was away for work, we stayed in touch daily, calling, texting, and making plans for the weekend. I couldn't deny my excitement. Being around him felt different, easy, and comfortable. When the weekend arrived, we planned a trip to the coast with some of his friends. I met him at his house, and we packed up his truck for the drive. It was a long ride filled with laughter and conversation. At one point, I had to change clothes in the truck, and he couldn't help but steal glances. I was a little embarrassed but found it endearing. That night, we had dinner with a friend, visited a casino, and ended up at a bar on the Bayside before heading to the hotel. Sharing a bed for the first time was a little awkward, especially with his friends in the same room. But we kissed, and one thing led to another. It felt crazy but exciting, and I couldn't help but like him even more. The next day, we went out on his boat. He couldn't keep his hands off me, which I found flattering, though not surprising. The day was fun, but the sunburn we both suffered wasn't. We headed home that evening, showered, and spent the night watching movies. It felt like the beginning of something amazing, until he ghosted me. The following week, I saw pictures of him with another girl. I was crushed. Out of spite, I posted a photo of us together and confronted him. His response was an excuse. I just need things to cool off. I want us to look like we came together naturally, not like I'm an ass. Then he stopped replying altogether. I told myself I wouldn't beg for anyone's love or attention, and I moved on. Or so I thought. A couple of weeks later, he resurfaced, apologizing profusely and asking me to come over so we could talk. Against my better judgment, I agreed. That night, he said all the right things. He apologized, told me how much he liked me, and begged for forgiveness. I fell for it. He later admitted he manipulated me that night to sleep with me, and I fell for that too. At that point, things moved quickly. He wanted me around constantly, and I obliged. We spent weekends together, went on adventures, and for a while, it felt perfect. I fell hard for him. I was happy, genuinely happy for a time. But the red flags were there. They always were. There were lies, nights he disappeared, and moments of explosive anger. He screamed at me for talking to a coworker, for knowing someone he introduced me to, for things I couldn't control. Every time, I forgave him. Every time, I stayed. The turning point came one night, when he promised to be home by midnight, but didn't show up until 6 a.m. He claimed he'd fallen asleep at a gas station, but his story didn't add up. When he finally fell asleep, I went through his phone and found messages he deleted. Messages that confirmed what I already knew. That was the moment I realized I couldn't do it anymore. I had given him everything. My time, my energy, my love. I even gave all of those things to his family as well, becoming deeply involved and close to them as well. And he'd taken it all for granted. Looking back, I see how much of myself I lost, trying to hold on to someone who didn't deserve me. I wanted so badly for our relationship to work that I ignored all the warning signs, forgave the unforgivable, and stayed far too long. But I've learned from it. I know now that I did everything I could to make it work, and the failure of our relationship wasn't mine to carry. He didn't value what he had, and that's on him. Although I will always wish that our story never ended, I know that it was a saving grace to be able to learn that valuable lesson. Story 13. A new neighbor became my relief from boredom. A new neighbor moved into our apartment building. He looked about 35 years old. We met by chance at the elevator and started talking. I found out that he lives across the hall. The next day, when my boyfriend went to work, I was bored sitting at home alone, so I decided to go to my neighbor's house in a long satin robe without underwear, under the pretext of asking if he needed help. When he opened the door, he was shocked to see me, but invited me to come in and have a cup of coffee with him. How could I refuse if I had come here for something more? While the coffee was brewing, I caught his eye several times on my protruding nipples. Getting as close as I could, I undid my belt on my robe so that he could see a little more of my naked body and whispered in his ear that I wanted to have some fun with him. He abruptly picked me up and put me on the kitchen table, spread my legs and started eating my pussy. His tongue was so playful that after a while I splashed it right on his face. Before I could say anything, his cock was already inside my womb. He fucked me for about 30 minutes, after which I felt his cock start to throb inside me and said I wanted him to fill my pussy to the brim. I felt his hot shot of sperm deep in my uterus. He came out of me slowly, as if he didn't want to leave this place. So now that we're neighbors, it seems he won't have to say goodbye to my pussy for long. As soon as I got off the table and got to my feet, I felt his cum slowly leaking out of me. I headed for the exit and said with a wink that I got everything I wanted. Now, when I came back home, I started cooking dinner for my boyfriend like a real loving girl, imagining how I'll visit my neighbor again tomorrow. Story 14. I think this will be a daily entertainment for me. A new neighbor moved into our apartment building. He looked about 35 years old. We met by chance at the elevator and started talking. I found out that he lives across the hall. The next day, when my boyfriend went to work, I was bored sitting at home alone, so I decided to go to my neighbor's house in a long satin robe without underwear, under the pretext of asking if he needed help. But when he opened the door, he was shocked to see me, but invited me to come in and have a cup of coffee with him. How could I refuse if I had come here for something more? While the coffee was brewing, I caught his eye several times on my protruding nipples. Getting as close as I could, I undid my belt on my robe so that he could see a little more of my naked body and whispered in his ear that I wanted to have some fun with him. He abruptly picked me up and put me on the kitchen table, spread my legs and started eating my pussy. His tongue was so playful that after a while I splashed it right on his face. Before I could say anything, his cock was already inside my womb. He fucked me for about 30 minutes, after which I felt his cock start to throb inside me and said I wanted him to fill my pussy to the brim. I felt his hot shot of sperm, deep in my uterus, came. He came out of me slowly, as if he didn't want to leave this place. So now that we're neighbors, it seems he won't have to say goodbye to my pussy for long. As soon as I got off the table and got to my feet, I felt his cum slowly leaking out of me. I headed for the exit and said with a wink that I got everything I wanted. When I came back home, I started cooking dinner for my boyfriend like a real loving girl, imagining how I'll visit my neighbor again tomorrow. Story 15. Can't wrap my head around it. WTF, does she get out of it? So I'll say right off the bat I went to a strip club a while back when she was out of town, and I am fully aware that dipshit decision is what set all this in motion, mostly. Anyway, I don't claim to be perfect by any means. She was out of town. I just got home from my grandma's funeral, alone, and wanting to escape the grief, and mostly just too horny and impulsive sometimes, off I went. She found out and was understandably pissed, and out for revenge or something. Shortly thereafter, it's revealed she's had this dude she sexts every time we argue, and take an hour or so to cool off in separate rooms. Not frequent fights, and not all that serious, but homeboy was chilling on the bench the whole 5 years we lived together. So I'm pissed and hurt. But once the shock wears off, I decide, fine, I'll show you I won't be doing shady shit, and I am a whole lot better than some IG douchebag. A month or so of her promising she's done flirting with him, only to change her mind a couple days later. I take it on the chin, but like, really? She flies to go see her BFF in the same city he's in. Promises up and down Main Street she won't see him. You can guess the rest. I even took her to the airport and planted a good one on her on the sidewalk. Heartbreak. Spend the next 6 months or so trying to work through it and catch her sexting him or some random new fuck in her DMs every week, or so, no joke, like 15 different incidents. Some were downright mental abuse TBH. Very ashamed I didn't slam the door and never look back. So yeah, eventually it's way FUBAR and I'm just at a loss. I put so much damn effort into rebuilding it emotionally. And on the sex side of things, I was like, okay, if you want to get fucked hard and slutty, I'm into it. But let's start off with some lovemaking, you know? Like, shut up and be my slave, but I'm gonna start by making you come like a lady. So by the end, she ran off for a few more random fucks. Same guy plus a few others, IDK how many. And I was dumb enough to ask for details. So here's my question. By all accounts, she's choosing the type to get themselves off and pass the fuck out. She ain't finishing. She ain't even getting walked to the door. She said she feels like a piece of meat after. So what the fuck does she get out of it? Why keeping going back? Heh. And why not cut the shit and stop hurting the man who you say you love? Heh. Shit's got me so fucked in the head. Loving these dramatic twists? Before we get into the next twist, make sure to subscribe for your daily dose of Reddit drama. Story 16. Partner 23M cheated on me. 21F on SC is asking for forgiveness. I, 21F, and my BF, 23M, have been together for close to 8 years. He was my first boyfriend, and I was his first girlfriend. Our relationship has many ups and downs, because I was also little and did not know how to do relationships. Context. His parents are against love marriage, and that has put a lot of strain on our relationship. I usually fights a lot on this topic, because he just says, just go with the flow and we will see, and this annoyed me. Apart from this, he is a perfect boyfriend, I guess. Last year was rough. He has some serious family issues, and he ghosted me for 2 weeks, and then when things got normal, he explained the situation to me, and I understood. Then again in September, he ghosted me for a whole month, and it was my B-Day month too. He didn't wish me a happy birthday, even though I kept on texting him. He got back towards the end of September with nice gifts, and I forgave him. In October, his parents forced him to see a girl for marriage purpose, and my issue was he didn't say no straight away, and he even went to see that girl. Even when a night before, I practically begged him to not go, and he even agreed but still went without telling me, and he wouldn't have told me if I wouldn't have made him confess cleverly. Although he didn't say yes to that proposal, but he didn't say no. So his parents just understood the answer was a no because it wasn't a yes. Fast forward to today. We were in his car, and I opened his Snapchat, and he is talking to a random girl. I couldn't see anything because I freaked out after seeing this one text. Good morning, love heartsuit. Sorry I slept early last night. I lost my shit and couldn't see anything more, and he took his phone, got out of his car, and probably deleted everything there. There were core girls because one had sent him a snap as a notification popped up. He then started saying that it isn't like how you're thinking. There is nothing going on between us. I just removed her because I thought you will feel bad. I said good morning, love by mistake, and he was also crying a bit. And he even swore on me and his mom that the love part was by mistake. And Chip. He kept saying sorry and trying to fix, but I only saw this. I can only imagine what else might be there. I can't trust him again, but I love him so much. A little context. I have also been kind of toxic. Like my first response to any fight was always let's break up, etc. And he has never ever let me go. And this new year also that happened. And before September also. Like I say mean stuff when I get angry and then block him, but he has never left me. That's why I am not sure what to do. Please give your advice. Story 17. How to tell her she's being cheated on anonymously. I want to tell this girl I know, not very well, that her boyfriend cheated on her. I have no physical proof. He had told me when he was drunk and made it seem like it was a one-off/accident. A few months later, we all went to a strip club as a group, and the guy disappeared by himself in that club for 2 to 3 hours. This confirmed for me that he is still doing shady stuff in his relationship. Telling her in a way that reveals my identity could have serious negative outcomes for my career. I would prefer to let her know because I think they may get engaged soon. If they decide to stay together, that's their choice. But I don't like, she would be making a major life choice without all the info. What is the best way to do this anonymously? I hate being stuck in this situation because I like both of these people. But if I were in her shoes, I would want to know. Story 18. Me and my girlfriend broke up a month ago over a heated argument. Later found out that the guy friend she would go on a hiking with is dating her. Didn't know if I got cheated on. So a bit of a backstory here. Me, 27YO, and my ex, 29YO, met on a dating app, exchanged socials, talked over a lot like what's our hobbies, how our previous relationships ended, and some other personal stuff. She got cheated on multiple times, was abused as a child by her stepdad, lost her mom years ago to cancer, and grew up without her biological father by her side. She was basically raised by her grandparents. I came from a relationship that lasted almost 3 years before it fell apart due to my shortcomings. She was the greenest of the green flags. My family is still intact, despite my father suffering from post-polio syndrome 3 years ago. Other than that, my backstory wasn't as heavy as my ex. We dated a couple of times then. About a month into knowing her, I noticed she wasn't all there. Told me to stop pursuing her, but we still went ahead on our planned date just for the sake of it. I was given another chance a week after, and eventually we became a couple after 3 months of courtship. A month after we got together, she confessed to me that she had a relapse stemming from her previous relationship, where she got cheated on. I tried consoling her as much as I could, and she got over it pretty quickly. I asked her about the time she told me to stop if she also had a relapse. She did. I noticed that after her first relapse, she would get irritated so easily over things like bad photography and cutesy nicknames. I would apologize as much as I can, considering what she had to go through before. She would even ask me if she was being too hard on me, and I would tell her no, and that it's okay because of what she's going through as a girl, PMS, hormonal imbalance period, that she went through a lot in her life, work stress, and all. This became constant, even when we were together. One of the few times she made a joke, she told me that she was the only mature girl I've talked to. It didn't sit well with me, because I felt like she was saying that my previous girlfriend was immature. I told her in a call that I don't think my ex deserved to catch strays like that, and that there are times that she might need to lighten up just a little bit. She apologized, but after our call, she said that she was returning everything I spent on our dates and was going to cut me off from her contacts. I talked her out of it, and we moved on. This became one of the main problems we had during our brief relationship. Whenever I tried venting out, she automatically thought that she was a terrible person, and I would feel bad about it. I told her that the point of feedback is not to put us down, but to see how we can adjust, as long as the criticism is valid. I also said that she could be honest with me as much as she could, because it would be worse if she bottled up her feelings. As far as the second relapse, I tried brushing it off, but it bothered me. I wasn't bothered about her getting mad at me on a weekly basis. The thing is, I felt I wasn't good enough for her. The first relapse and her mood swings that came with it felt like it was her reaction to her relapse, and she would pin it on me. For days, we continued exchanging sweet messages and do our usual calls. But I noticed that she started cracking jokes about how she's only for dating and not dating to marry. I asked her if she was really sure of me, and she said no. I also asked when can I visit her again, but she said that she had told her grandmother that we'd broken up. She would laugh and say that she was only joking. It made me uncomfortable. She also called me out on my poor choice of clothing wear, habits that were a pet peeve of hers, made comments about my weight, and asked me if I could bulk up to 70 kilos. I was at 65 and recovering from gastritis during this time. I made sure to eliminate those bad habits like chewing loudly while eating, up my weight to 70, practicing good photography, and so on, so I would not embarrass her and I could fit her ideal man. Another thing is that she questioned my sexual orientation due to my clumsiness. I wasn't offended by all of this really. It did make me conscious about my weight, but whatever. During our last month together, I was on the receiving end of a silent treatment for no reason, and we got into a verbal fight and broke up on bad terms. Silent treatment always felt like it makes the people who actually care stupid. It was a very heated argument, and that was the last time we talked. I would have days thinking, if I was very inconsiderate, if I should have apologized and things would have went differently. More than a month after we broke up, I saw pictures of her with her guy friend she met on a hike that she's dating now. Then it hit me. During our last month, she told me that she doesn't feel like talking and that she wanted to relieve the feeling of missing me. We did patch things up days before our breakup and got back to the usual sweet messages. I never got jealous of the friends she made during her hikes. Matter of fact, I was thankful to them for guiding her in finishing the climbs. She had goals, and I was always supportive of her. I am over her. But one thing that's bothering me right now if she did cheat on our relationship is that, of all people I trusted, I did not expect that the betrayal would come from someone with first-hand experience with it. It also made me question myself. I've been losing sleep for a few days now about what happened and how much leeway I gave just to make sure that she doesn't suffer the same hardships she went through before. But it also got me thinking that maybe I should have respected myself a lot more than I did. TLDR. Looks like my ex was cheating on me with the guy he met during one of her hikes. Story 19. I just got cheated on. Please give some advice. I am 18 years old. I was with this female since 16. We were close friends since 14. I always thought I got lucky. I found the one early and that was it. Anyways, me and this female have been through a lot. A lot of forgiveness on both sides. One thing I can say is this female acted like she cared and loved. I say acted because during our break, though, we were still in contact, trying to make plans on how we were going to better each other and help us and the relationship grow. When we get back together, we had plans on moving out and everything. Yes, this young. Anyways, I am a male. I am in college on track for nursing, graduated. I have a lot of money. I drive a Mercedes. I love very hard and I give very good sex. This girl, while we were on decent terms, went to a club, got drunk, and had sex with a random 22-YO. She never spoke to him, only knew him through mutuals. I saw him, he is nothing compared to me. I really question what was the reason. I am extremely humble and it doesn't sound right saying, but I look better than him, I present myself better, literally just a complete downgrade on her end. I am very strong, I have been through a lot, so I already came to acceptance and almost forgiveness, and it hasn't even been 3 days. I wasn't ready to let her go, but when I think of it, this female was slowing me down, and I guess so was I. She is stuck in high school for her 3rd senior year, doesn't do much beside talk about drama. I wanted to change her so bad, make her so much better. Her family does not care about her. I was her last. It hurts because I was not ready to let her go. I am forced to. At our age, her doing that showed me her true colors. Can I get some advice or help from anyone? Story 20. My mom dating a married man. My dad passed away a few years ago. My mom has been telling everyone that she'll not find another man. However, my sister found out that she started dating again. We're both happy for her as we're afraid she might feel lonely after my sister moved out for uni. The identity of the mysterious man has always been a big question mark. We were just waiting for her to feel comfortable enough to introduce the guy to us. But we found out recently that the man is married with kids. Doesn't seem like he will leave his wife anytime soon. My mom knows this is wrong, but she still continues with the relationship. She has been a role model to us, who sacrificed for the family, taught us right from wrong. She is really religious too and prays every day. Hence, now my sister and I just can't look at her the same way anymore. We don't know what to do. In our society, we have seen mistresses being beaten up on the streets by the wives, and people would cheer for it. If this gets out, it could damage everything she has. Career, reputation, everything. Any advice, please? Should we confront her? Should we ask her sister, i.e. my aunt/close friends, to reason with her? Story 21. My boyfriend cheated on me with someone in our friend group, and I'm struggling to figure out what to do next. I, 20F, have been with my boyfriend, 22M, for almost 2 years. Everything seemed perfect, or so I thought. We share the same friend group, and I always felt like we were a solid couple. A couple of weeks ago, one of my friends accidentally let it slip that my boyfriend had been hooking up with another girl in the group for months. At first, I didn't believe it. I confronted him, and he admitted it after a lot of excuses. He said it didn't mean anything and that it was a stupid mistake, but it wasn't a one-time thing. It was ongoing. The girl knew we were together the whole time, but she acted like nothing was wrong when we'd hang out as a group. I feel so betrayed, not just by him but by her too. This friend group has been my support system, and now I feel like I can't trust anyone. Some people in the group knew about it and didn't tell me, saying they didn't want to get involved. I don't know what hurts more, the cheating or the fact that so many people kept this from me. I'm not sure if I should try to salvage the relationship or just walk away. Part of me still loves him, but I can't stop thinking about what he did. And cutting him off would mean losing a lot of friends too, which makes everything harder. I don't know what to do or how to move forward. Has anyone been in a similar situation? How did you handle it? 22. Does this count as cheating? I flirted on the phone with someone after my partner verbally abused me, dumped/discarded me, then threatened to kill himself in front of me if I left. After that, we got back together and I've been too scared to tell him. I'm not sure and feel conflicted and guilty. About a year in our relationship, it's been a rocky 4 years. I decided I had enough of my partner's verbal and emotional abuse. He would be incredibly nice, supportive, and kind to me most of the time. I genuinely do love him deeply. But then once every 4 to 6 weeks he would let out his rage and behave abusively to me. It is good most of the time, but it has been a confusing relationship of hot/cold, love/hate, being treated amazingly/being treated abusively. At that time, he had already yelled/screamed at me, called me despicable, vile names, attempted to abandon me in an unfamiliar place without my belongings, woken me up in the night to scream at me, would start fights that would exhaust me and go on for hours until 4:05 a.m., acted aggressive/intimidating, threatened to dump/discard me, used the silent treatment, and dumped me for a short time. The fights would start over very small things, like me leaving a dish out, me paying attention to my work and not answering him right away, making him a few minutes late to get brunch, etc. After one of these particularly horrific episodes, which started over something very minuscule, where he berated and yelled at me for hours, he discarded me and told me we are over and done. I got a motel to take a break for a bit and was about to leave, when he changed his mind and suddenly realized he couldn't lose me. In desperation, he held a knife to his throat and threatened to slit it in front of me if I left. I was in a state of shock and dissociated from my body completely. I told him if he didn't put the knife down, I'd call the cops, but he finally put it down, and I spent several hours calming him down. After, I told him I needed space and asked if he would let me go to the motel for the night. He said yes. I planned to get some sleep there and recover after the incident, while creating a plan to leave him, since I was thousands of miles away from any family. At the motel, I was in shock, traumatized from it, and I was too afraid to tell my mom or my friends about what happened because I didn't want them to know. First, I called the domestic violence hotline, and they told me I was being abused and that I was in danger and needed to find a safe plan to leave. Then, I called up a male friend on the phone who I'd recently started chatting with a few weeks prior. I'd started to develop some feelings for him in the past few days prior to this event, since my boyfriend was abusing me consistently for weeks and I planned to leave. Until then, our conversations had been platonic, and he knew about some of the emotional/verbal abuse I was experiencing. I told him what happened, that I was scared and shocked and I didn't know what to do. This friend was calm, kind, and reassuring and provided me with warmth. He told me that he worried for my safety and how he'd help me find a plan to leave, and he even offered me to stay with him/meet up with him if I needed. He said that I didn't deserve to be treated that way and that he would never treat a woman like that. I was grateful to have someone to open up to. Then, he told me that he had feelings for me and started to become flirtatious. Still in a state of complete shock/dissociation, I first resisted somewhat, then reciprocated the flirtation. I was just so relieved to have someone be kind to me. And very quickly, the discussion became sexual in nature. I reciprocated that as well for about half an hour before I snapped out of it and realized what I'd done. I immediately felt absolutely disgusted and ashamed with myself. I realized very quickly that this friend had actually taken advantage of my state of vulnerability and wanted to use me for sex. I noticed that he was following hundreds of pages of half-naked women on social media and became immediately repulsed. I told him that I felt he'd taken advantage of me for his sexual interests, immediately stopped talking to him, deleted our conversation, and blocked him permanently. I have never talked to him again. A few hours after that, I felt absolutely horrified at what I'd done. I felt like a deceptive, terrible cheater. I cried, felt confused, and missed my boyfriend, feeling like I'd made a terrible mistake to leave. In that moment of weakness, I agreed to allow my boyfriend to come to the motel a few hours later to chat. We talked. I never told him what happened. I was too afraid and ashamed to say anything, and he convinced me to come back. I felt so weak, confused, and conflicted that I came back with him the next day. He apologized for his behavior, told me he wouldn't treat me like that again, and we made up. My recollection of this event is so hazy because I was in a state of total shock and blocked it from my memory. I have never flirted with or cheated, emotionally or physically, on him since that traumatic night. It's been a few years since, with multiple additional episodes of emotional/verbal abuse. Then and I have never had the courage to tell him about that day. It haunts me in my dreams, and sometimes I wake up in a sweat feeling panicked and guilty. I'm terrified that he'll find out, and also terrified that I'm a horrible, deceptive person. He already suspects that I'm cheating all the time, and if he finds out about this, he'll never let it go. I have carried this guilt with me for so long, and I can't let it go. I just have to get this off my chest. LDR. After extensive emotional/verbal abuse and being dumped/broken up with, I planned to leave my boyfriend, but he stopped me from leaving with a suicide threat. I stayed to calm him down, then left for the motel, where I was traumatized and dissociating. Feeling vulnerable, I talked on the phone to a male friend. That friend started flirting with me. I first resisted, then reciprocated, and we had a discussion that became sexual for a short period of time. After realizing I was being taken advantage of, I stopped it immediately and blocked him permanently. I felt terrible about it and got back with my boyfriend after, but still never told him about that night. This haunts me still, and I feel so disgusted and guilty about myself. I am not sure if it's considered cheating. Story 23. Pregnant girlfriend texted her ex. I've seen this girl for a while now, and I knocked her up pretty quick. Things are moving fast between us, and it's really been amazing. Me and her have discussed her ex before, and she made it clear to me he was a shitty person and didn't treat her well, and that she cut off ties completely when we started taking it more serious. She's a month pregnant, and I took her to appointments, and I treat her so good. Last night I saw her ex close to the top of her messages, with him sending a lovey TikTok thing, and she sent him a weird ass is fat meme, but the rest of the chats were deleted. The texts are from a week ago. I'm in a lot of pain, RN, because IDK what this all means. She swears she hasn't seen him, but WTF. I'm going to raise a kid and start a future with her, but now I've lost some trust. Story 24. Never saw it coming. Sneak attack. So this girl that I've been seeing recently broke up with me because she couldn't get over the fact that I couldn't trust her. I busted her flirting with several guys and ignoring my calls and texts, even though she kept insisting that she wanted to try again. She also seems to have a second number that I knew nothing about until I stumbled upon it. I would call this mysterious number, and it goes directly to her voicemail. I even recorded it, sent her the video, and she claims to have no idea why. This usually only happened when we were arguing. Now that number is no longer valid, but another number I just stumbled upon is also connected to her voicemail. Why? Why lie? Why have this second number? Why would she just stand by and watch me lose my godforsaken mind over this, and then have the fuckstime audacity to call me crazy? I just want her to be happy, with or without me, too. I hope you realize this, amor. Story 25. Any advice for the cheater in a once-off cheating incident? I, 26M, have been with my GF, 27F, for 12 years. Both very happy together, having very serious conversations about getting married in the near future. Been together since high school. Neither of us have ever done anything other than teenage kissing with anyone else since we got together so young. We often mention that we would have preferred if we only met in our early 20s after having a bit more single experience, but we don't dwell on it at all. I admit, having sex with someone else was an itch I feel I never scratched, and it bothered me from time to time, but never enough to consider breaking up our relationship. Fast forward to a couple of months ago, I found myself getting hit on in a bar. Long story short, in an alcohol-fueled series of events. I had a one-night stand with this girl. I left the next morning, and even though I felt more than a little guilty, I don't regret it, because I feel like I've scratched the itch. In the time since, I've had no further desires to see what single life is like, and things are going great in our relationship. I guess I'm wondering if I have some moral obligation to tell her about what happened. I feel pretty comfortable carrying the secret at the moment, but that's not to say it won't eat me up someday, of course. I also know I'll never ever cheat again. I genuinely feel like I've closed the door on that. Without getting into particulars of the night, there is absolutely zero risk of her finding out from anyone else. And finally, if I do tell her what happened, our relationship is 100% be over. There is zero tolerance for cheating. Is it okay to just leave her in blissful ignorance? I know I'd be causing her so much suffering if I told the truth. Can the past just stay in the past forever? Story 26. Seriously frustrated with my current situation. So I have a missus. We have sex maybe once a month. When I say sex, I mean I wash the dishes once a month. I have never been so bored in my existence. I am 28 years old, and until now I had never went a week without sex since I was 17. I have never struggled with women to the point it's difficult to leave and not sleep with women, but now I feel absolutely trapped with the difficulties of life that everyone had to deal with. Why must I, as a hypersexual man, suffer sleeping with a woman that, yes, we may work well as a team, but I actively avoid any intimacy at all because it makes me cringe so much. I have slept with many women, and the one I am with is well at the bottom. Sorry for the rant, but I need some attention. Now, I don't want to go out like I did when I was younger and sleep around, but I am seriously fighting the urge not to do it. Story 27. My partner cheated on me and doesn't know I'm aware. I read my partner's journal and found out they've cheated on me. At least twice. They have also been on hookup apps at some point during our relationship. We've been long distance for most of our relationship, and we've been dating for less than 6 months. I found out about a month ago, and we've been together every day since I found out. Distancing myself to process this alone hasn't been an option since we're on vacation together for another week. I never had any doubts in my partner and felt our relationship had a lot of trust between us. Them not opening up to me about this sucks, and I don't know how to bring it up, given I crossed boundaries by reading their journal. If I wasn't aware of this, everything would still feel normal. They still say they love me, they discuss having a future with me, etc. I'm doing okay, but I'm still confused on what to do. I don't want to stay in a relationship with this secret, but I also don't know how I can bring it up. I also do still have love for them, but I hate the decision they made, and it's making me question a lot now. Any comments or thoughts on the situation are welcomed. Story 28. I emotionally cheated on my abusive partner after he verbally abused me, dumped/discarded me, and then threatened suicide if I left. I haven't told him and have felt disgustingly guilty about it every day since. About a year in our relationship, it's been a rocky 4 years. I'd decided I had enough of my partner's verbal and emotional abuse. He would be incredibly nice, supportive, and kind to me most of the time. I genuinely do love him deeply, but then once every 4 to 6 weeks he would let out his rage and behave abusively to me. It is good most of the time, but it has been a confusing relationship of hot/cold, love/hate, being treated amazingly/being treated abusively. At that time, he had already yelled/screamed at me, called me despicable, vile names, attempted to abandon me in an unfamiliar place without my belongings, woken me up in the night to scream at me, would start fights that would exhaust me and go on for hours until 4:50 a.m., acted aggressive/intimidating, threatened to dump/discard me, used the silent treatment, and dumped me for a short time. The fights would start over very small things, like me leaving a dish out, me paying attention to my work and not answering him right away, making him a few minutes late to get brunch, etc. After one of these particularly horrific episodes, which started over something very minuscule, where he berated and yelled at me for hours, he discarded me and told me we are over and done. I got a motel to take a break for a bit and was about to leave, when he changed his mind and suddenly realized he couldn't lose me. In desperation, he held a knife to his throat and threatened to slit it in front of me if I left. I was in a state of shock and dissociated from my body completely. I told him if he didn't put the knife down, I'd call the cops. But he finally put it down, and I spent several hours calming him down. After, I told him I needed space and asked if he would let me go to the motel for the night. He said yes. I planned to get some sleep there and recover after the incident, while creating a plan to leave him, since I was thousands of miles away from any family. At the motel, I was in shock, traumatized from it, and I was too afraid to tell my mom or my friends about what happened because I didn't want them to know. First, I called a domestic violence hotline, and they told me I was being abused, and that I was in danger and needed to find a safe plan to leave. Then, I called up a male friend on the phone who I'd recently started chatting with a few weeks prior. I'd started to develop some feelings for him in the past few days prior to that, since my boyfriend was not treating me well. Until then, our conversations had been platonic, and he knew about some of the emotional/verbal abuse I was experiencing. I told him what happened, that I was scared and shocked, and I didn't know what to do. This friend was calm, kind, and reassuring and provided me with warmth. He told me that he worried for my safety and how he'd help me find a plan to leave, and he even offered me to stay with him/meet up with him if I needed. He said that I didn't deserve to be treated that way and that he would never treat a woman like that. I was grateful to have someone to open up to. Then, he told me that he had feelings for me and started to become flirtatious. Still in a state of complete shock/dissociation, I reciprocated the flirtation, I was just so relieved to have someone be kind to me. And very quickly, the discussion became sexual in nature. I reciprocated that as well for about half an hour before I snapped out of it and realized what I'd done. I immediately felt absolutely disgusted and ashamed with myself. I realized very quickly that this friend had actually taken advantage of my state of vulnerability and wanted to use me for sex. I noticed that he was following hundreds of pages of half-naked women on social media and became immediately repulsed. I told him that I felt he'd taken advantage of me for his sexual interests, immediately stopped talking to him, deleted our conversation, and blocked him permanently. I have never talked to him again. A few hours after that, I felt absolutely horrified at what I'd done. I felt like a deceptive, terrible cheater. I cried, felt confused, and missed my boyfriend, feeling like I'd made a terrible mistake to leave. In that moment of weakness, I agreed to allow my boyfriend to come to the motel a few hours later to chat. We talked. I never told him what happened. I was too afraid and ashamed to say anything, and he convinced me to come back. I felt so weak, confused, and conflicted that I came back with him the next day. He apologized for his behavior, told me he wouldn't treat me like that again, and we made up. My recollection of this event is so hazy because I was in a state of total shock and blocked it from my memory. I have never flirted with or cheated, emotionally or physically, on him since that traumatic night. It's been a few years since, with multiple additional episodes of emotional/verbal abuse. Then, and I have never had the courage to tell him about that day. It haunts me in my dreams, and sometimes I wake up in a sweat feeling panicked and guilty. I'm terrified that he'll find out, and also terrified that I'm a horrible, deceptive person. He already suspects that I'm cheating all the time, and if he finds out about this, he'll never let it go. I have carried this guilt with me for so long, and I can't let it go. I just have to get this off my chest. TLDR. After extensive emotional/verbal abuse, I planned to leave to take a break, but was planning to leave my boyfriend, but he stopped me from leaving with a suicide threat. I stayed to calm him down, then left to the motel, where I was vulnerable, and talked on the phone to a male friend. That friend started flirting with me. I reciprocated, and we had a discussion that became sexual for a short period of time. After realizing I was being taken advantage of, I stopped it immediately and blocked him permanently. I felt terrible about it and got back with my boyfriend after, but still never told him about that night. This haunts me still, and I feel so disgusted and guilty about myself.